Welcome to Outfast. My name is Jeremy, and I'm going to be walking you guys through a few thoughts today in regards to what do we as property managers do. And I think it's important to also highlight before I go into a bunch of details is there's kind of a difference between an asset manager and a property manager. And your more experienced property managers are going to have a little bit more perspective from an investment standpoint. So property managers are what we do on a day-to-day basis, but asset management is also something that we try to tailor in and weave into our property management services, which is kind of above and beyond what most other property managers are going to offer. So asset management is the thought process of constantly analyze on an ongoing basis how well your investment property is performing and tax implications, the insurance piece of it, whether it's single family or multifamily properties. Asset management is a much more higher level view to ensure that the asset's performing as you would like when it comes to maintenance or the return on investment, your equity growth, like that whole picture, that whole financial piece of constantly analyzing and seeing how the property is performing is really in a different bucket called asset management. Now, you as a client are going to, you may assume that that's sort of part of what a normal property manager will provide, but it's not always the case. And it also depends on the level of experience that your property manager has. And I think that's one thing that sets us apart as well is we are investors ourselves. So property, we buy properties to flip them. We buy them as rentals. Most of our clients are third party management, which, they hire us to manage their asset. And so we're in this market. We're investing in Tampa Bay just as you guys. So we kind of experience with a lot of the same issues on a day-to-day basis when it comes to residents, rental growth, the market, and stuff like that. So just wanted to put that out there. But from a property management perspective, I'm going to go through a list of things that we do as property managers to give you a better perspective. Even if you hadn't worked with a property manager before, I think it's a good refresher. So from a leasing standpoint, assuming the property is vacant or going to go vacant, we're going to help with all the property marketing materials. So generally, 99% of residents, potential residents, are going to find your property online. So all of the listings that go out to all the different websites, that's going to be something that we provide the professional photos for. We do floor plans. Some of the properties may even get 3D virtual tours that residents can walk through. And so all of that upfront cost, that's the photos, the walkthroughs, the marketing descriptions, putting all of that stuff together and posting it out to all the websites and syndications. Like we pay for all the software that does all that. So that whole piece is included and our placement fee. Obviously, tenant screening is what would come next. So all of the showings, in-person showings, sometimes we do hybrid models where tenants might be able to schedule a self showing if they book something last minute and they're able to still take a tour of it. It's super common in the industry right now. So that's something as well. Special lock boxes to do that, special technology, confirming IDs before they get access and all that sort of stuff. All that tenant screening is also included in our placement fee and all the application oversight. So once they apply, looking at background checks, bankruptcies, evictions, liens, landlord verifications, prior property management verifications, everything that we can take a look at to make sure that we're getting the best tenant in place is all part of what we do for our placement fee within the business. And then once the resident's in there, they get moved in, after they sign the lease, we collect the first month's rent deposit and make sure they schedule the utilities over. The next step is basically rolling into the maintenance or the ongoing management of the property, which is your monthly management fee that you're going to pay. So that includes rent collection. We have a bunch of different ways tenants can pay, both free ways, right? Money order, linking their bank account, or if they want to use a debit card or credit card, there might be a processing fee that we have no control over, but is pretty standard. So we offer free ways for them to pay rent if they don't want to get charged that percentage, which really matters. And then for people that have trouble with transportation, possibly, we also have an ability for them to pay at some of the convenience stores as well. So a lot of ways to collect rent, very easy, low barrier of entry for the residents to be paying on time. So their portal is also the same place that they're going to pay rent and submit maintenance requests. So maintenance request comes in, we're troubleshooting. Can we have the resident troubleshoot before we send a technician out? That's going to be important to over time. Let's say, 1 out of 10, 2 out of 10 work orders, we can either cancel and toss out because it's not relevant for us to fix as the landlord or managing for the landlord, or the resident being able to troubleshoot something like resetting a garbage disposal. So all of the maintenance intake analysis, is it in the lease? Is it not? Who's responsible? And then dispatching the right vendor, troubleshooting, that's all part of what we do on an ongoing basis for stuff that comes in. And then we do inspections throughout the year. Some might be one of our team members going to the property. There is technology that allows us to have residents also do inspections. So after the resident moves in and before the resident moves out, there's different inspections that the resident's actually going to do as well. And that helps us sort of cross-check the quality inspections we do. Also helps us analyze the property much faster, easier on an ongoing basis. It keeps costs down for you as the owner, not paying for a bunch of extra inspections. And then also when the tenant moves out, we have a lot of records to analyze what's normal wear and tear on a property to claim a security deposit, or a portion of it, or give it to the owner, give it back to the tenant, and do that sort of thing. Evictions obviously is something that can pop up. Let's say a tenant does not pay rent on time. The 3-day notices. If they violate something in the lease, 7-day notices, all the different notices, the wording, the legal terms, like all that stuff is what we compile and deliver to residents just on an ongoing basis. HOA violations, if they're not cutting the grass, properties in HOA, that sort of thing, is all stuff that we deal with. So it's something that we keep a sort of tight grip on, and especially when residents aren't paying. Doing weekly follow-ups. We have multiple week meetings throughout the week on all the different sectors of the business, and so we're keeping a close eye on residents that aren't paying. If they're not paying, are they communicating? Are they not communicating? Some of that stuff plays into how long we might wait until we evict them. Do they have a payment plan sort of in process? Do they have an update with us as far as payment? And then once we get to that point where we just realize like it needs to happen, we'll go ahead and coordinate the eviction on behalf of the owner. And there will be some eviction fees that will come into play as well. So some of that may be covered by us, some of that may be covered by the owner, but we'll handle that whole process. So hiring the attorney, going through the process, and then day of delivery of once we have the final judgment, judge signs off, we order a sheriff to the property and kick the tenant out and take access. So all of that stuff is part of different things that we do. And then, like I said, we have a lot of good contacts with real estate attorneys. So if we get into a weird situation with your resident and we need to talk to our attorney, they're not going to bill us the same rates that they would bill you guys at, $300 an hour. So sometimes we just get that advice for free because, we do a lot of business with them. And so that's one sort of cost that you guys don't see a lot is that sort of stuff that's happening on the back end. And then financial reporting, we have a lot of financial reports that we can provide owners. There's 4 or 5 that are probably pretty standard: income statement, balance sheet, rent roll, and a few other things. So you as the owner don't have to worry about any of the bookkeeping. We do that on a monthly basis. We share reports twice a month. And then you also have reports that are shared monthly, but at the end of the year, your 1099 of reporting the taxable income of the rental to the IRS, something we file on your behalf. And then we also give you the document to hand to your CPA that's here's all the income and expenses for the year. And so you don't have to worry about doing any of that. The only caveat there would be if you pay for a repair outside of us, which would be kind of unusual, but let's say the roof needed to be redone and you paid a vendor directly, or you paid for some supplies directly and it did not come through our software, it's not going to be tracked. So you would just have to add that in at the end of the year. And then, audits we're required by the state to have sort of financial things done to ensure that security deposits are being accounted for correctly, and the rents and the maintenance reserves and all that sort of stuff. So that's a kind of a broad idea. We have more stuff on our website as far as different things that we do. But also, I think one last thing just to comment on is, using a property manager, especially if you're buying properties. So I think a lot of people don't realize the value that we can have in the due diligence process. So first is analyzing a potential investment property, right? Making sure that the numbers work with what the other selling party is telling you. And then if the numbers seem to look decent and you make the offer, we can work alongside your realtor during the deal a little bit to take a second look at the inspection report, repairs that we may recommend that your agent may not, or we may see some of the similar things, but there may be some proactive stuff that we may mention that you can use to negotiate during the deal as well. So and then just making sure that the deal is really a good deal to take a look at, especially when you get into the multifamily, 2 units or more in one property. Can be a little bit more intensive for due diligence and things that you guys want to consider. But we want to make sure that you buy a good deal. We want to make sure that the rents that you're getting or you're expecting to get are going to be what's in line with the market. So you're not buying a property with a high expectation of increasing rents, and it's not really realistic for the current market or as the market's changing. Use us as a resource during due diligence when you're buying properties, just to give you an extra perspective on top of what your agent's doing. So hopefully this video was helpful for you guys, give you a better overview on how your property manager can add value to your asset and save you time and money, especially with the way that we handle things. Maintenance being one of the bigger components where we can help you guys save over time as well. So hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks.